thought it would be a good idea for us to just have a conversation with some of the pastors that are a part of the ministry and answer a few questions about some things that maybe you are dealing with at your location and things that we really want to try to improve upon and do. But we have Byron Brackett here from Salem Baptist Church in Dalton, Georgia, Chris Hayes from Sherwood Forest in Rome, Georgia, and Johnny Wright from Bears Creek First Baptist Church in Winder. And so thank all three of you for coming and agreeing to be a part of this. One of the things that we really work hard to do, obviously, is to get people to come to our location. And so promotion is a very big part of making sure that the location is successful. We do have a requirement from the food bank that we have to average 30 people per month for each location, or we're not able to come back to that location. And so promotion is a very vital key in the ministry process. And so I want to start out with Chris, and then the others of you can jump in too. But how do you handle, all three of you at your locations have a lot of first-time visitors every time. And so how is it that you handle the promotion and especially speak to some of the social media things that you do?
Absolutely. And first of all, I just want to say on behalf of all of our pastors here, thank you again for all that you're able to do here and for God to use you guys to be able to encourage us. In our particular setting, we're coming in 2016 to a church revitalization program. And so for us to be able to partner with Hope for the Hungry, it was an absolutely instantaneous boost in regards to that handful of core believers, for them to be re-energized and saying, okay, we can be used on mission. So from day one for us, one was in regards to social media aspects, one is just reestablishing the testimony within our community that here's a group of people that care about them. And so, every chance we were making opportunities to build that sphere of influence in our social media aspects. And so when we were able to finally partner with Hope for the Hungry, it was an easy process to be able to, okay, now that we've got a larger following, now we're making sure to capitalize on those who are not only followers of social media, but then we also do some ads, some boosts, and we're not talking about a lot of money either. That's the beautiful thing about this, is that maybe 20 or $40 a month perhaps.
Okay, so when you talk, because earlier David was talking about just posting on community pages, you were talking about ads and boosts.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, and so especially on Facebook, you're able to not only select the area to which you're wanting to target, but you're also able to determine rather the demographics. And so whether that's you're reaching friends people who have liked your page, or it's friends of friends, or it's just general public. And so then you can go back and kind of pinpoint certain age brackets and those kinds of things. And so we've tried all of those. I think the best one that we've seen that works the best for us, for our setting, is the one that regards to boosting that people that's liked our page, but then the friends of those. We've seen more and more shares. And so on any given month, we'll have anywhere from 200 to 300 shares on our Facebook post. And so one of the things too that we do is that we always use the same type of image. So we created our own Facebook ad image, that's got obviously Sherwood on there, but then free groceries. And so we may change the color of it, but it's going to be the same ad. And so we're boosting that, so it's getting known throughout the community as well.
And so is it fairly easy to do that through Facebook?
It is. You may need a tech guy, and so this is what I want to encourage you. If you don't have that person, if you're not that person, or you don't have that person at your right hand, as you go to the schools and you're taking a flyer out and you're wanting to communicate to the school system, hey, listen, this is what's coming. While you're at that school system, go ahead and ask them, hey, is there somebody here that could help us in this? And if you pray about it, I assure you, God's going to raise up somebody that's going to be that intricate part of making that happen. And so we think it's very important, especially in church revitalization. Again, you're basically hitting the reset button on who we are as a church, and so you want to strive to do everything as well as you can.
Byron or Johnny, talk about what maybe you do.
We've had a lot of result with posting to yard sale, estate sale, garage sale type sites, those communities locally, and then just the individual members. We'll put a graphic out there, and you can watch it spread through the church like wildfire as they share it. So just word of mouth, and then hitting those specific communities is where our biggest turnout. The first time we really went heavy with the yard sale sites, I think we served 136 families that next Thursday. So it was phenomenal.
Great. We've done probably everything you can think of. What we're doing right now is working real well. It's my wife standing down the road with a shotgun. But this pastor here, no, I'm just joking, but that is an idea. But we did the Facebook, and you're right, the Lord sent us people that I don't have that ability. I'm just a plain old simple guy that loves the Lord. But he sent me people that knows how to do all that. The first time back, we put it out on Facebook and social media. We heard from over 500,000 people who viewed that. All the way into South Carolina, and they sent word back thanking us for what we were doing for people in our area. And we target certain areas, and they're branching out from all of that. So it's working really well. And I thank God for all the modern technologies, too.
I'd be curious, do you find someone in your, obviously you said they raise people up, but do you find someone to try to delegate that responsibility to every month to make sure that gets done?
We sure do, and this guy was already in our church, and a lot of people say, where do you find workers? The same place I found them in the book of Acts. They are already inside that church. You just need to find them. And when we really began to push this, when we found out that y'all were coming back, these people, just stood up. And they have a whole different set of gifts than what some of us here. But they're there for a reason. And one guy stood up and said, "Preacher, I can do this." He's 24 years of age now. And that's what he does for a living. And he just markets this out there in ways that I don't know how he does it. Don't care. It just works.
Well, Johnny, let me let you start off with the next question, and that is, what has the partnership of There's Hope for the Hungry meant to your church and meant to your community?
Well, to be honest with you, this setting right here, I was sharing with my wife a moment ago. I just turned 65, and I remember as a boy preacher, Jeff, going to meetings like this. The atmosphere was so charged. And I realized that we got to get that back in our churches. So I push it from the pulpit. It has been an encouragement to me to look out across that congregation and see people catching what I feel. And you can see it when you're preaching. Somebody's making contact with you, Brother Jeff, and you know they're in there with you. And it's like saying sick 'em to a bulldog to a preacher, And when I see those people lighting up, I know God has just touched them, and the door is open for me to present this work to a greater detail to them. And our church is just called Fire. We have a group, and no offense to any of you that's over 65. We're still young. But we have a group of ladies in our church called the Old Ladies Gang. And if you try to take that food preparation for the meal for the workers away from them, you got an awful fight on your hand. They see it as their part of winning souls to Christ. And you got to see it that way, or if you don't, you're going to get burnt out. And I thank God that it's just, put a little fire back in our church that we need it. And we need a whole lot more of it.
Byron, Chris, what have you seen the partnership impacting your church or your community?
Yeah, just as I said before, one, it was an automatic boost in regards to just encouragement and excitement within the fellowship. But just as a brother just said, is that you find that there are different gifts of different people, and then let them use those gifts. And so it is just absolutely encouraging just to see someone, whether they may not be able to go to the counseling room, but they are able to serve a table. And so how significant that is for the kingdom and for the body.
The motto of our church is others. It's very simple. You'll connect that back to General William Booth when he couldn't attend a conference much like this one. He said, "General Booth, would you like to, have a message to the group?" And he sent back one word: others. And so that's the motto and the message of our church. You can ask even the newest member there. So when they hear about there's hope for the hungry, the light goes on. Because they're constantly looking for a way to flesh out or live out that motto of others with the gospel. They say impact others with love and truth. And so when you've got hope for the hungry, it's like, wow, this is a way that I can live out my mission. And it's really been well received at our church.
Well, this question may be a little bit in kin to what you were just talking about, but I know that it's often said that there's 20% of the people in your church doing 80% of the work, and we understand that There's Hope for the Hungry is a program for you. It's our ministry that we do every day, but you guys have a lot of other things going on and a lot of other demands on people's time. How do you, or what do you think it is about the ministry that encourages your volunteers to be committed to being there month after month after month?
Well, a lot of that goes back to Michael and to you. There's some apprehension when a ministry appeals to you to come onto your campus. You feel that apprehension of who are these people and what are they going to do and how are they going to impact my people and my community when they get there. And when Michael presented There's Hope for the Hungry, you could just see our congregation come alive. I think we had 75 to 100 people sign up that morning to I want to be a part of this. And when we send out a text or an email blast, hey, there's hope for a hungry, we don't have to worry if we're going to have enough volunteers show up because they're excited about the opportunity to get there. But the second part of that is when Tom and the first set of you volunteers came on our campus. You're so kind. You smiled like you talked about earlier, and you were professional, you were caring. I've seen Tom, the line back up, and I've seen him, we don't like to do this, but I've seen him share to a group and never get frustrated. Always kept his cool and just handled the situation. And that's what inspired me to say, we need more counselors. And we've even trained our pastors and church staff so that they can come off the bench. We can bring our third string in when our volunteers get if it gets really overwhelmed. But between your counselors and our volunteer counselors, that's what I call in their wheelhouse. And you're giving them an opportunity where they're not having to go out and create a relationship, share the gospel. People are actually coming to them, and you can tell they just love it. So.
Great. Chris or Johnny, what would you have to add or anything to that about?
Anything to that?
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things that is a challenge for our ministry is that we are expanding and God is blessing, and we are so encouraged to see the hand of God moving. But one of the challenges that we have, quite frankly, from our ministry is that we have a limited pool of counselors and volunteers that we're drawing from, and we're already asking a lot of our counselors in going out multiple times a week, and they love doing it. and they're willing to do it, and they want to do it as often and as much as they can. But how are you maybe growing the opportunity to have some counselors from within your churches to step up and to say, you know what, we need registration, people. We got to have somebody standing there to sign them in and to work the truck. But we might want to take a little bit, maybe step of faith to become a counselor. What are some things that you think you can do to encourage that?
Well, Tom, I'm going to be honest with you. I just looked at my church, and after teaching a soul-winning course to a group of men, I told my whole church, this is something that you can do. For the simple reason, as the preacher preached a little while ago, God has given you the ability. I had a man in my church when he was in the mountains. I tried my best to teach him how to be a soul winner. He said, John, I can't do it. I said, can you talk about football? He said, sure. I said, then you can talk about Jesus. Well, after years passed by, I left there and was in the hospital in Athens one day. He turns a corner. He's 75 years of age now. He threw his arms around me and said, I did it. I didn't know what in the world. I thought he'd just, kill somebody who was this. But he said, Tuesday night on this station, I led an 82-year-old man to Christ. And I said, see, Hugh, I told you could do it all alone. And so if you instill confidence in your people, you can do this. It's not rocket science. Just tell them the story. And if it's a part of you, believe me, it's going to flow from you. And the more it flows, the better you're going to get presenting it. So I just approach it like that and try to encourage them, We're beat down enough in this world. We need some encouragers.
For us at Sherwood, one of the things that we always make mention of is after each serve date, we are giving a report and we are celebrating, during those services of what God has done. And then, of course, our director, we're able to mention him to folks that are visiting. Hey, if you have any questions, make sure to check with Tom. And but here's the thing, and I think this is each of us could agree on this, is the fact that I think our greatest pull for others is those volunteers who's already volunteering. They get the taste of the fact, wait a minute, we can do this, we can be used, and so they're encouraging others to be part of it as well.
Well, great. Well, that's a perfect lead into the next question, because that really was my next question. We come to your locations, and we're there from 10 to 1, and most of the people who are members of your church may be working, and they never have an opportunity to truly witness the people who come in to the location to see those that pray to receive Jesus and make a profession of faith. And so, Chris, I loved what you said about your report service that Sunday after we come, because my question was, how do you excite the members of your church that don't ever have an opportunity to be there to see it?
Yeah, and one of the things, too, is the fact that you continue to emphasize our purpose and our mission. Just as we've heard all day, is the fact that, hey, this is about others. This is about the fact of making much of the gospel. And so in every day, every service, that's our main goal. We want to motivate people to see beyond themselves and see beyond their own problems and see a community that is dying and in need of Christ. And so any way possible we can do that to encourage them. That's what we're going to do.
Chris, Tom, one of the things we did, we recognized that. And I didn't want to exclude anybody in that church. I started a prayer team for those who work. At 10 o'clock or before, they're praying for that particular service that day. They're so hungry. And it's working. I have people walk in and tell me, Preacher, I'm glad what happened. We have to work, but we were praying. I think somebody told me that Spurgeon had 500 men under his pulpit praying for him every time he preached. And he said, there's where the fire's at. So pray.
Johnny has been one of our longest standing partner. And it's your church that has seen over 1,000 people come to know the Lord through this ministry. And so your prayer efforts are definitely working. Byron, would you care to add anything?
I think the enthusiasm of the counselors we have, just again, word of mouth, of course we're sharing it throughout the church and letting that be known, but those counselors, they walk away with that spring in their step and that smile on their face, and they're communicating that when they're around the other people. And enthusiasm is contagious.
Amen. Let me just also say, I had a couple of questions during the lunchtime as I was walking through your tables. Some of you were asking, how can we be trained? And I just want to let you know that we are more than willing to come to your church and to train you on how we go about the process of sharing the gospel with someone. And just like it's been set up here, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. There is a way and a process that we walk you through that kind of fits into the context of how we share our faith with There's Hope for the Hungry. But we would be more than willing to come to your church and to train as many people as you would want to train, whether they're able to partner with There's Hope for the Hungry or whether they just want to be soul winners. That's our heart, and we're more than willing to set up that so you can talk to us afterwards, and we will be more than happy to talk more about that. Our ministry, we think it's great. We know it's great. We know that God's hand of blessing is upon it. But we know that there's still challenges. There's still things that are difficult for us to do. One of those things is, the follow-up process and things like that. And so would any of you guys like to share, just some of the challenges that you have faced in partnering with the ministry and ways maybe you've seen God overcome that? Johnny?
Well, right here's the only problem, and I stress the word only, that I have. It's not that we don't have workers. It's not that they're not enthused. It's not that they don't have training. They do, and all these other things. But what burdens me more than anything is that down through these years and all those people who make professions of faith, we've only been able to get a few of them inside our church. And I went back and looking at all those papers, a lot of them. And I realized through counseling with them myself that there was one thing was reappearing. Well, preacher, we got a church, a family church, connected with this and that and the other. So I would encourage them to go there. Whether they did or not, I do not know. I've mailed out letters. I've made personal phone calls to a lot of these people. We've even got some of the letters back with wrong addresses on them, and they're the addresses that they gave us that day. So I want to say this to all of you, and I want you to hear me. When we first went to our little church almost 29 years ago, it was a mission church of the Mulberry Association. Brother Claude Heelan was our area missionary, and he had a heart as big as that table for souls. And our sole purpose for existence was the mobile home parks in Auburn, Georgia. They said they could not get them to go to any of the churches, so we started one for them. And we saw a lot of people saved, walk out of that park, little kids in the dead of winter with no shoes, hardly no clothes on whatsoever. And Claude made this statement to me. He said, Johnny, I know you want to grow a church, but you're not going to be able to do it here. But listen to me. He said, if you can get them saved, they're at least going down the road saved by the grace of God and not going to hell. And that statement has kept me faithful to this task. This is an arm of evangelism. And I have to look at it that way. Or I would say, those people are just being talked into things. Billy Graham got concerned about that one time in one crusade. And he went back and researched. Of all the people coming forward, he found 437 people actually got saved each night of that crusade. Well, every one of those was precious. And if it was only one of them that really got saved, it would have been well worth the effort. And so we keep plugging along, Brother Jeff, hoping one day that those people who were connected with other churches somewhere finally realized, I've been saved and I need to get involved in the work of God and start going to church. But listen to me. God has called us to win people. He didn't call me to build a church. I don't know how to do it anyway. He promised me he'd do that. Amen? Amen. So pray for me. That's the only problem that I've got. I mean, I got great workers, a wonderful wife who has spearheaded this thing from day one when we was introduced to it so many long years ago, and I forgot who told me about it. But it's working. I mean, it's really working. That's all I want to say.
Amen. Chris, I want to kind of direct this next question to you because it does seem like Sherwood, for whatever reason, has seemed to do a great job or been blessed by seeing those that have been saved through There's Hope for the Hungry ministry to actually come back and to actually be baptized. Is there anything that you can put your finger on or might be a help?
Certainly we're going to do things what many of you are already doing. For those who make decisions, we're going to make a first contact. I'm going to contact those who have trusted Christ personally, and we'll do it that day. Within that month, we've got people that are not only praying for those, but our secretary, our ministry assistant, she's making sure to go through each one. She enters that into a data processing system that's text in church, and so that month we are utilizing those capabilities as well. Brother had mentioned about the yard sale posts and things. We do that as well, and what's unique about that is the fact that whenever you start a conversation with someone on one of those posts, you can go back and revisit that conversation. And so whether they came to your church or not for that event, you've already got them. You've already started to build a relationship, and so to capitalize on those efforts. And so certainly to pray and asking God for His favor and looking at what God is doing uniquely at our location, we can't really explain it. I mean, really, we just know that God is on the move and across the board. It's not only in student lives, but middle age, senior adults. It's just like the wind of heaven is blowing across souls, and so we're super excited, obviously, to be a part of that.
You know, Chris, one of the things that kind of came across as you were talking, we would all agree that it has to be the Holy Spirit. It has to be the Spirit of God that's at work in the hearts and minds and the lives of the people that come in. But one of the things that I picked up that you were talking about, the word that came to my mind was intentional. Intentional. You contact them. You pray for them. You enter them into a database where you can follow up with them ongoing. There's things that you're doing. God is at work, and it is ultimately up to God. But we can help that process. And if maybe we're not doing some of those things at our locations, maybe doing that would help. I always, in churches and places I've been in the past, there's always the event, right? There's the build up to the event. And then when the event is over, everybody wipes their brow and they say, man, look what God did. Wasn't it wonderful? But if you really want to get honest, the work is now just beginning, right? Think of your VBSs, things like that. The work begins after the event is over. And so thank you for sharing that. And I like, hearing about your intentionality. One final question that I just asked you. Is there anything just that you would like to share just about how you've seen God work in this ministry? I know you've shared a lot about those kinds of things, but what's something that just kind of sticks out to you as far as how God has worked?
I would just want to thank First Redeemer Church for the vision that you have and for There's Hope for the Hungry and all of the hard work that goes into it. All over North Georgia, churches are being blessed by your efforts. And I just came here today to say thank you.
Amen.
You guys, Chris,
if I may, when we arrived in Georgia in 2016, one of the first things that we began to do was to pray for a ministry to partner with, and specifically in reaching this demographic, those who are in need in that such a way. And so we began to research those areas in our community in Rome, and nobody really. I mean, there's a lot of things that's going on. There's a lot of great community efforts, those kinds of things, but nothing really just snapped, you know. And so it was not until we met Michael, and Michael, I'm not sure where you originate from. Are you from up north somewhere? You're not. You're from, but you sound different from everybody else that I've ever known. And so we went to an event that he held, and my associate pastor, we had been praying now for several weeks there, and so he said, hey, listen, this ministry has come up. Hey, this might be an answer to our prayer. And so we go to this church to hear about this, and please take no offense to this, Michael, all right? Because we listened to 5 minutes of his speech, and I left. I just listened to 5 minutes. And so I know because after knowing him now, he talks a lot longer than 5 minutes. And so, but after 5 minutes, I already had it pinned in my heart. This is the ministry for us. And so the huge thing that God has shown us, and please understand my heart in this, is the fact that every week there are broken people that enter our doors. Every month that we have this event, there's brokenness that enters our doors. And to let that be the shaker, right? The thing that awakens us to the needs of our neighbors, to the needs of our community. And so, if anything, that has so encouraged me to be more about evangelism, more about reaching, becoming more intentional. So thank you again, and ditto what my brother said. Thank you to First Redeemer for all that you're doing, indeed.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this panel. Y'all give them a round of applause and appreciation. Thank you.